Yeah, that's not. That's the. Because this one right here, where it's picking up, is the computer audio. Check. That was it. Yeah.
Are you able to delete? You able to delete everything else
that we've been doing? So since somebody's watching it, what I'm gonna do is, so what I'll be able to do is go back and chop it up. We'll delete the first part of it before we put it out there.
Yeah.
I mean, this is live. I don't nobody know we're live.
We'll delete the first part of it before we put it out. Yeah.
I mean, this is live. I don't know. Yeah. That's good. All right, get it cracking. Get it cracking. So, I guess we just start off. Well, welcome to Tapped In. So this is the podcast that you've been looking for. If you're looking for two family guys, husbands, fathers, just trying to navigate life and do this thing we call life the best that we can, based on our faith, our beliefs, our core values, and just trying to learn along the way. A lot of times you can go through life and not really pick up gems and jewels, or just kind of be cruising through, and really not take the time to figure out the lessons that you're trying to be taught. And what we're here to do is just to share those life lessons that we have, the things that we've gone through as far as raising our families. That was. Why did it do that? I guess we'll start over.
Oh, what? What are you thinking?
I'm gonna cut it out anyway, so I'm gonna go ahead and just read it.
Introduce ourselves and then read that.
So what's going on, everybody? My name is Sean Stewart, and this is...
Hey, I'm Troy Bailey, and this is Tapped In.
And what we came to do is we wanted to provide something new and refreshing in the podcast space. So just a little bit, if you're looking for unfiltered conversations that hit home, we're two husbands and friends that are navigating life, diving deep into the issues that matter today. Whether we're just talking or if it's about faith or family, and the balance that we all seek in our daily lives. And so what we want to do is we want to bring our perspective on those topics, but also some lighthearted topics such as sports and culture, the ever-changing real estate market, entrepreneurship, mental health, fitness, and social issues. So as things change, we just want to give you guys a different perspective. So if you're looking for a podcast that's refreshing, that's gonna entertain you, also be able to give you advice and maybe encourage you, or just something that you can relate to and say, yeah, that's me. This is a spot where you want to be. So welcome to Tapped In.
Welcome to Tapped In. Thank everybody that's out there watching. I'm gonna go ahead and address the elephant in the room, man. I'm die hard, whether win, lose, or draw, man. So you're gonna see my Eagles hat. You see the Eagles behind me, man.
Yep.
That's what it is, man. I'm riding with my squad, man. It was a rough week for us, but
it was a rough week for a couple of teams, man. So, for me, I'm a Ravens fan, and it's been a tough 2 weeks. I mean, 2
boy.
weeks in a row where we could have easily had the win,
Mm-hmm.
and we came out on the wrong side.
Man, I know that feeling all too well. Man, and I really think in our situation, I think it boiled down to coaching, man. It was last minute, man, defense, man, folded, and just some heroic plays that I don't think was necessary for that type of game,
Right.
man. But yeah, if Vegas, anybody got Vegas this week, they're a genius, I believe, because there's no
made some money.
way. Yeah, it's no way. So just want to put that out there, man, because I'm still gonna rock them proudly, man. You know,
Well,
that's what
I'm
it
still
is.
just as proud. I just think I'm not rocking mine today. But you know, I mean, but honestly, you know, for me, as far as the game goes, I feel the same way about the end of y'all's game as I did about the end of our game on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I thought we had it wrapped up, not wrapped up, but all we needed to do was finish out, and we was gonna be.
Oh
good
yeah,
to go.
absolutely.
Make the right plays, not make no mistakes, and like honestly, like at the end, I think it came down to what you said: play calling and not executing when you need to, and then on the defensive side, not being able to make a stop.
Yeah. And I was talking to a buddy of mine today, and he made a good point. He was saying how a lot of the teams that you expect to come out and perform at a high level, I think they underestimated some of the teams that was decent last year that maybe needed a tweak here and there. So you'd have the, teams like the Saints, maybe I don't know, it's a few teams that's out there that just need a little bit tweaking. And I think week 1 and 2, the teams that on paper was supposed to be the best came out, took those teams for granted. Those teams came out and said, look, we're gonna execute, and it showed.
But you just said a team that like they ain't just execute, they've been killing,
dominating.
the
Yeah,
Saints.
yeah,
They've been dominating, man.
Yeah.
You just don't put up 40-some points a couple weeks in a row.
Yeah, but where was that at? I mean, it's they there now.
Yeah,
they're definitely in the conversation.
They them. I mean, it's another team in y'all division that might not like them too much right now.
Oh man, and look, and it was so crazy because I was loving it. I'm biased. I was loving seeing what they did to Dallas, and now coming off our game, knowing we got to play them next week. Yeah, and you talking about a team. Talking about a team that put up 90 points in 2 weeks.
Right.
Yeah, that's big. That's big.
That is big. All right. So one of the things that I seen this week that I thought was pretty interesting, because I think we, you know, from the perspective of what they were talking about and the perspective that we have was should young men today, should they grind it out in their 20s and their 30s, you know, trying to get the bag, trying to establish their careers, and wait until they 40 to get married?
Woo. Wow. 40 to get married?
Yeah, wait till you got it all figured out and all together, and you got all the money, you got your own place, you got your own crib, you got your cars, and you can take the trips that you want to, and now that's the time when you're supposed to go ahead and get married.
I think 40 is a little late. Me personally, I'm the type of guy. The journey was fun having somebody to build with, right. Somebody to, you know, speak into my life, believe in me, and help me grind. I feel like if I had waited to where I'm at now, I probably wouldn't be so open just to bring somebody in freely, because I would be like, yo, I did this on my own.
Right.
I didn't need, you to get to this point. So I have that freedom, that luxury to move on my own,
right.
Do this. I probably would have too many options at that time because, right. I'm a successful man in my 40s. Like, right. So I think that could help or hurt you. I really think by the late 20s, after you finish college and enter into a career and get settled in that career, maybe for a few years, I think it's time to start looking at making a family, in my opinion.
In your opinion. So what would you say as far as like the guy, because like the talking point on that scenario is, you want this particular type of woman, but you don't have anything to bring to the table, right? But to me, I think they missed the mark, and it kind of goes back to what you say. Why if you are grinding in your 20s and your 30s, you really don't have anybody to share that journey with, right?
Mhm.
Unless you got some really, really good friends, close friends. Part of this thing to me, what we call life, is the journey itself.
Mhm.
And I tell my kids all of the time, it's about the experiences that you have and the memories that you create. Right.
Absolutely.
That when
No doubt.
when it's all said and done, those are the things that
No
you
doubt.
leave, right?
No doubt.
And to wait and to be honest with you, my perspective on it is, it's honestly, I think, a selfish perspective, because you assume that you're gonna be here when you're 40.
Yeah,
right?
no doubt.
And you
Mhm.
assume that you're gonna be able to have kids.
Wow. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're assuming these things when you don't know it when you're in your 20s either. But if you find, so to me, I speak from my perspective, if you find a person that you share the same moral compass, you share the same values, and you're working towards the same goal, and you align, and this is the person that you want to be with, then you do that, because you don't know if that opportunity is going to be there later in life.
Yeah, for sure. And then think about this too from a different perspective. With the reach that everybody has now, the world's gotten a lot smaller. And what I mean by that, and not just your town or just your state, just all together, the pool is smaller. So by the time a female is 40, the amount of female and male, the amount of baggage that you can potentially bring into a relationship, by being in the dating pool and all that for that long time. I mean, think about it.
Right.
It's tainted.
Right.
And then I'm sorry, but I also think about one of my favorite songs, and I'm thinking about Jaheim, man, that struggle love. You don't enjoy those times of, okay, we triumph and there we doing it now, and if you don't go through that struggle love part, that building. So
Right.
yeah, I think they would miss out on a lot by waiting till your 40s.
And you said something, because I don't think that the perspective that a 40-year-old man who's successful is not looking for a 40-year-old woman.
Facts.
He's looking for, a 40-year-old man is not looking for a 40-year-old woman. He's looking for probably late 20s, 30s, early 30s.
Oh yeah, youthful energy, man.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean, so that's what he's looking for. And then, then it's, and at that point in time, that's not really love, it's a business decision, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know what I mean? You're looking for somebody who brings to the table the things that you need, but you also going into it protecting the things that you already had before you went there, right?
Yeah.
And so to me, if you have the opportunity to have love, true love, you take that over a business decision.
And I agree.
Right. And you take the journey, you take the ups and the downs with it. And I'm saying, even if it goes we're fortunate enough that it hasn't. But I mean, even if you took that opportunity, the lessons and the things that you learned from that experience, you take that on to the next experience, right? Mm-hmm. But you allowed yourself to be able to do that. Part of allowing yourself to love is allowing yourself to be able to make mistakes and grow from them.
No doubt.
And to think that all of the things that you have privy to now will be there when you're 40, or it'll be the same way, I don't think is realistic, right?
I don't think it's realistic. However, I do see the pressures, man, as a young man, to want to speed up the process to have what a 40-year-old guy has obtained. Because I mean, in our culture now, or just in the world today, 25-year-old female really is looking for a guy to come to the table with, like you said earlier, the bag. They want you to bring the bag. They want the trips. They want the vehicles. They want the meals that an established couple could eat every night when they want to. And
They don't want to work.
They don't want to work. So,
Right.
and it puts a lot of pressure. I would hate to be in a dating pool now. And I'm glad I found my wife and my soulmate when I was at a younger age in a different time, because now everything is about the bag.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And the status and how you look while you getting it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that segues into another topic. Is $1 million life-changing money?
Woo. And listen, I'm gonna say it this way. In my opinion, it's life. Yes, it's life-changing. It's not retirement money.
Right.
I don't think you can nowadays, because the value of money has changed.
Right.
Do I think it's life-changing? Absolutely. And I'm gonna tell you why I say it. Because let's say you take a scenario, you take a family facing eviction, rent $1,200, they 2 months back, they looking for something. If a joker come along with $5,000, it's life-changing to them.
Right.
So if it can change your present situation, and to me, it'll give me more disposable income to invest the way I want to and things like that. Yeah, it's life-changing.
And see, I don't know. The only people to me that I would think that would say, no, that's not life-changing money is people who work for over $1 billion or over $500 million.
You would think so.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Because like at that point in time, just as far as comparison of value, if you were $500 million, $1 million is like $1,000, right? You know what I mean? But that's only 2% of the world population, right? That got that kind of money. For everybody else, $1 million is life changing because it can certainly change your current living conditions, right? And to me, like what you said, it's not retirement money, but with the right kind of education behind it, it can set you up for a really nice life. So you figure with $1 million, if you just put it in like the S&P 500, or you put it in, a Vanguard ETF, or in like the Dow Jones, the average rate of return in those markets is like 5% a year, right? So $1 million, 5% is $50,000.
Oh yeah,
right? That you can make a year just off of the really that stock growing in value over the year.
Oh yeah.
So and you can take that and live off of that. So that now that $50,000, or let's just say it's $40,000. I'm not sure. So let's just say that $50,000 is now $50,000 that you can add to, let's just say the $65,000 that you're already making a year. So that puts you at $100,000. That puts you over $100,000. That changes your whole life situation. Or if you're in real estate and you're looking at investing, that allows you to buy a couple of rental properties cash that now can give you that same kind of cash flow that you can that you have every month. So to me, it's just like for most of the 99% of the people in the world, $1 million is definitely life changing.
Well, I done had jokers tell me to my face $1 million ain't a lot of money. Yeah, yeah, I done had cats tell me. I'm talking about cats that punch the clock every day, working 9 to 5, tell me that's not a lot of money. And and maybe to somebody who has zero financial literacy and is impulsive, maybe it's not, because like the question was, is it life changing? It could be life changing in the other direction. I mean, this thing, it can also enhance whatever you got going on. So if you have, some addictions, or if you impulsive spending, it's going to only make it worse. So
yeah, and it's crazy because that's the one thing I remember Oprah Winfrey saying on her show, that money was a magnifier of who you really are.
That's it.
That's it. I mean? So all the good that's in you, it's gonna magnify that, and then the things that aren't so good, it's gonna magnify those things. If you're
oh yeah, absolutely.
All right. So what else you got, man? What else is on your mind, man?
I just been man, honestly, man, thinking a lot about mental health, man. That's my wife. She's in the mental health field, and just with everything that's going on, man, just watching the news, and sometimes you're getting up, strolling through Facebook, man. see, it's a lot of people, man, that's going through, man, and they're looking for answers, looking for answers in all type of places. So I was sitting back thinking this week, and I was like, I have faith. I have faith. So, and I have a relationship. So I like that, I pray, I meditate, I do my things. But in our community, counseling for years has been, I don't know what you say, taboo or whatnot, but it's always been the church house or religion.
Right.
So how much, now looking at the state of the world today, do you think like religion and counseling, do you think one trumps the other, or?
No, I think they go hand in hand, man. I think for so many years, like just us as a community, we've been, because we didn't have access to that.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have access to that mental health side of things, or it wasn't introduced to us, right? So the only thing that we were introduced to that helped us deal with the social emotional issues that we were dealing with on a daily basis was faith,
Mm-hmm.
right? Our relationship with God, right? And through whatever book you want to read about God,
Mm-hmm.
It's taught like the better relationship you have with Him, the more understanding, the more wisdom that you get. But there's still not so. And do I believe in that? Yes. But at times there are things that you're dealing with that you actually need another. It's based on the way that you think or what you've seen growing up, and you need sometimes that validation to let you know, hey, no, the way that you're looking at things is not normal,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the way that you're processing that is not from the right perspective, and so here is another perspective, and here's another set of tools that you can use when you start to feel this certain type of way, so that you don't react this type of way, or so you don't go towards this thing because it makes you in that moment feel better.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's like more of an instant sometimes you do those things because it's more of an instant gratification than it is to really actually sit and deal with whatever that issue that you have that's pushing you towards things that aren't good for you.
You said something key though, because you was talking about the mindset and the things you go through. So how do you promote, that counseling and getting that help? If I'm asking, like, how do you promote that counseling and getting help if a lot of that is based on your religious upbringing? Because a lot of our beliefs and our ideologies are passed down from the grandparents, our parents, and a lot of them are rooted in, so a lot of times, I know I have friends that in school they couldn't go to the football games, they couldn't go to the movies, so all that was based on religion because everything was of the world, or it was the devil, satanic. So how do you say, okay, go get this counseling, but not talk bad about, or not talk bad, or realize that, hey, this is a part of why I'm like how I am because of these teachings? It's almost like it's going to be a separation.
Right. So I think as you grow as an individual, I think you should always be asking yourself why you do certain things that you do.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like the answer can't just be just because. Right. I do this just because. So like if you think about it, it's just like, and this is just my thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I grew up in Pentecostal church, go to church Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, all day Sunday, right? From 10 to 6,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or 5. But it's like when you get older, I think you should naturally ask, why do we spend that much time in church?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because you think about it, if you got a family and you're raising your family, Your kids are involved in certain things. You want to be able to be there for them. You want to have a strong family unit. Like dedicating that much time. Again, this is just my thought. Dedicating that much time in an evening when you have a busy schedule, it's hard.
It's hard on a family. It's detrimental to a family.
Right. It's hard on a family. So at some point in time, you have to sit and say, okay, well, why? Why do we go to church this much? And why do we stay this long all the time? And it's just like, to me, the more I thought about it, you think about it from just where we come from slavery. The only time that we had to spend time with our families was on Sundays doing church.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And so we didn't have to work in the fields. We didn't have to do all those things. That was a day where the master was out with his family, gave you this time to have church with your family.
So now naturally you want to prolong it.
You want to prolong it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean? So to me, like the root of being there that long of a time, it's like that's something that I, prayed about. Like, okay, well, why is this? You know what I mean? And it's like, that's what kind of came to me. It's like, okay, well, that makes sense. That makes sense why they would do it. Doesn't make sense why we should be doing it now, because it's not, it's not the same. And so I think you just got to be realistic. I think you have to be, I think we all have those pressure points that there are things that are frustrating in our lives and we don't know why. And I think instead of saying you need therapy, it's like you should be encouraging people to ask themselves the question, why do you feel that way? Right? Why do you feel that way about this particular thing? Why is this frustrating you so much? Like just asking those questions, why?
Well, that's therapy. That is therapy. Therapy helps you pull back that onion and peel those layers off to get to the core, because a lot of people have to be directed, in that area, because a lot of times you're battle within yourself, and we're always going to go back to a familiar place. Anytime you start getting uncomfortable, asking yourself uncomfortable, you familiar places, and it's going to be pray about it. Right. But when you start to get those answers, we got to look them in the eye and address them. So now you need somebody to help kind of work through it. So I think they work hand in hand, and I think it's becoming normal now, and you see a more healthy family, you see a more healthy person, a more healthy man, from that. I mean, I'm an advocate of both.
Yeah. And I mean, and I believe in it. I believe that it needs to be involved in your whole health journey, right? You know what I mean? Because you can be healthy in one area and be not healthy in another area, and the balance is just trying to be the best rounded person that you can be, and a lot of times that I'll figure this out, man. Oh. And a lot of times, just some of the internal things that you really aren't dealing with can trigger other things in your health, right? Like you could be the type of person when you're, depressed or down that you overeat, right? You could be the type that when you're depressed or down, you stop eating, right? And so you get you're anorexic. And so there's different triggers for different people. And I think the when you can have those conversations, and I think like really, and I'm gonna say this from a male perspective. I think the benefit of the therapy is getting to a place where you can be vulnerable, and not feel like you're being judged and you're not good at, and you're not good enough. Because on a day-to-day basis, you have to, as a man, you have to show up, right? You got to be strong for yourself. You got to be strong in the workplace. You have to be strong. Well, actually, I just take a step back. You got to be strong for yourself. You got to be strong for your wife. You got to be strong for your children. Then you have to be strong at the workplace. And then, when you're going in the grocery store.
That's
when you're driving your car, right?
Yeah.
So you have to have you have to have this level of being there all the time. And there are times where the motions on the outside look like you all there, but on the inside, it's just like, I'm not gonna say you dying, but it's just like, man, this is hard, right? You know, just the expectation level of being a man,
Oh yeah,
right?
absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
is you know, what I mean, it's hard, and like with that, kind of going back to what we talked about before, there's no amount of money that makes you feel any different. I don't care if you got, you know, $1 billion, right? You know, it's still like, if you want to be a good husband and you want to be a good father and you want to be able to be to make an impact on this world,
Hmm.
there's a pull on your time and on your mental, you know what I mean, on your mental on a daily
Oh
basis,
yeah, no
right?
doubt, no
So
doubt.
there's no escaping that. And so I think that what that therapy does is allow for you to get into a safe space where you can talk about the things that really are bothering you, and you're not going to be judged.
So how?
But you're also going to be given a different, because sometimes all you need is that one little different perspective.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? To make you like, oh, I never even thought about it like that. And
Yeah.
then boom, you off, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, and I think it's important to create safe spaces, man. For men, women they have Women's Day out and they get together and they can tear, drink the wine, drop tears, hug on each other. Men, man, don't come hugging on me. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right, right.
So it's one of those things where we very rarely get the opportunity, like you said, to show that vulnerability, man, and to break down. There's a lot of times I'll have a conversation with myself and shake it off.
Right.
Shake it off, man. Okay, man up. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's what we talk. Man
Right.
up, man.
Right.
The little boy fall down herself. Look, don't be crying.
Get up.
You sad you ain't make team, don't cry. Do it, do better. So we always would talk to suck it up. But after a while, sucking it up will cause you to burst. And I think we're seeing a lot of that in society now
Right.
because you got a lot of men that's led by emotion, and that's dangerous.
Right.
You can't lead by emotion because then you make emotional decisions.
And that's not even like when it all comes down to it, it's not how it's not how grounded men react. They don't react off emotion, right? Because reacting off emotion can make you make a lot of wrong decisions.
Oh yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And so that's where, and you said something. I want to ask you a question. Is the vulnerability, because in a room full of your peers who are men, it is hard to let your guard down. And why is it so hard for us to let our guard down?
Well, it's a bravado thing, man. It's ego, it's bravado, and then also is how is it going to be looked upon? Nobody wants to be looked at as weak,
Right.
but sometimes a guy that can be open with his feelings and be vulnerable is actually a stronger guy because I don't have to carry this around with me. I can leave this here. I can, say my piece if I want to break down. If it's yeah, and I'm just, going back what I'm saying, sometimes the stronger guy in the room is the guy that could be vulnerable about his feelings because it's one of them things where I can leave it here. I can, I can speak my piece. I can break down. You can take it however you want to, but I don't have to carry this baggage around with me because I was able to unload, tell you how I feel.
Right.
Because the guy that feel like he can't be vulnerable, he has to carry this around with him. And it's other things, pressures of life is steady adding on. And at some point you got to empty out.
Right.
And if you don't, that emptying out is going to be very unhealthy. It's going to be on your kids. It's going to be on your wife. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
And it's crazy because that emptying out thing, man, most of the times you end up emptying out on the people the closest to you.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so, it's almost like a trick. It's just like, nah, I'm going to make you hold this. I'm going to make you hold all of this in.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you do, I'm going to let something small and minute trigger you. And now you're going to unload all of this on the wrong person.
On the wrong person.
At the wrong time. You know what I mean? At the wrong time. But I do think that is, I think you hit the nail on the head, man. I think in that vulnerability, as a man, it makes you wonder how you're being perceived by the other men.
Mhm.
But it's interesting because that's kind of the same philosophy as like as a AA, right? You know,
Mhm.
because they put it all out there, right? So they don't have to carry it. But sometimes with the other things that men struggle with, they just don't want to be as transparent about it. With like if there was if there was a, let's just say anger management AA, right?
Mhm.
If you had a whole bunch of men in there who struggled with anger management and you had them being vulnerable about that one thing, I think that's a way where you could get guys to kind of tap in
Oh
and say,
yeah.
okay, well, here's a space where these guys share the same issue that I
Mhm.
do. I think the problem comes when you start being vulnerable about something that another person isn't vulnerable. Well,
Right.
that you're being vulnerable about an issue that another person that doesn't struggle with at all, right? And now you're
Mhm.
wondering, okay,
Are they judging me?
are they
Yeah.
judging me,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
And so that's so I guess kind of circling back, I certainly think that with faith, I think faith and mental health go hand in hand. I mean, because you have some people that just have chemical imbalances and they need medicine and stuff like that to
Oh
regulate
yeah.
them and keep them,
Oh yeah.
keep them going.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And the creator, man, is wise enough to give people those the doctors medicine
right,
and studies to say, okay, this can help. So and even for years that was frowned upon.
right,
So now I think finding a way to create that balance is going to make a healthier us, man. And then we won't make all the decisions. I mean, you won't see the young men, man, that's getting locked up and becoming felons and losing opportunities on life, man, because that felony thing is real.
it is, man. So like in the wake of some of our legislators, getting
Right.
getting felonies,
Mm-hmm.
you know, what's your thoughts on now anywhere you go at right now? On the application, one of the questions are, have you been convicted of a felony? Right.
Uh-huh.
So like if we're gonna allow people who make decisions for us to have felonies, should that be something that should be on the application going forward?
Man, I for years I've always thought it was unrealistic to hold somebody to a mistake. Yeah, I made a felony. Obviously, I paid my fines. I did my time. Should this follow me the rest of my life? No, because people change. And we know that every so many years we change as individuals. So I'm not the guy that I was when I was 18. I'm not. I mean, it's only by the grace of God that I don't have plenty felonies. I've caught cases. You talking to a guy who's caught plenty of cases, and man, I was always able to get them plead down and things of that nature. But they follow you, and I feel as if like you said, you're gonna be in control of my destiny. You're making the laws and all this, and you're a felon.
Right.
Then you got to do away with the process altogether.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
So I agree with that on certain on up until a point, because some I don't know if it's the camera. A while ago it said that the camera was hot. Let's get it shorter.
And we back.
Because not all crimes are the same. You know what I mean? Like, crimes that involve physical harm or danger to another person or child. You know what I mean? Like those things, I think you should know about, right? Do I think that there are instances there where people have made mistakes and paid their debt to society and have been rehabilitated and should be given another chance? Yes, but I do think that whole system needs to be looked at, because if we're gonna make an exception for one person, then we got to look at the whole system of the way that we're doing things right now.
No, for sure.
Because I mean, you got to be fair about it. You can't have a felon telling me I can't. You know what I mean?
Right.
That what I did is unacceptable to him.
And you at the top of the food chain.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But and then also the way I look at it, let's say I'm a thief. I stole, embezzled money, right?
Mhm.
Okay, maybe that felony is going to prevent me from dealing with money.
Right.
But why should that felony prevent me from driving a bus?
Right.
Because it's totally unrelated.
Yeah. Or working for an HVAC company putting
ACs in, right?
ACs in, right.
Yeah. So well, I'm gonna steal your AC unit. Like, come
Right,
on, that's
right.
not my MO. So I think it should be categorized.
Right.
You know.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, to make
if the
it fair.
felony pertains to the work that they do,
That
right?
makes more sense.
Right.
Makes a
You
lot
know,
more
then-
sense.
then-
Yeah.
Then yeah, it should carry a little bit more weight to it.
And just to touch on it just a little bit more, because you know I have family members, close family members that's dealing with it now. The felony thing, you know, you have some people that can get expungements,
Mhm.
so that there are things out there. So it's good to know your resources too, because I think a lot of that was designed systematically to keep certain people out of the race to success. You know, because once I get this felony, I can't vote. I can't certain, you know, privileges and firearms, you know, can't possess firearms to protect my family. It's a lot of things now when it comes to those jobs, even if we got the same education,
Mhm.
I'm out the race because this felony. And that's why it comes to like, I mean, it's systemic abuse. I mean, giving me the felony, but not only that, well, yeah, just give me the felony. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Right.
Just I'm gonna leave it because we can go deep into that.
Right. Right.
But I think a lot of it.
But there's a system at work that makes it hard for you to be able to get from out of that, right?
Yeah,
And it's really designed to keep you. It's not designed. If it was designed to rehabilitate you, there'd be a clear path for you to be able to pay debt to society based on whatever felony that you had, and then there should be a clear path for you to be able to either get an expungement or to show you here's career paths that based on what you did, this is where this shouldn't hinder you in your success at all.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And it's disproportionate when they handing out them felonies. It's very disproportionate. You know, same crime, lesser time, misdemeanor versus felony. You know,
right? And then I mean, it all depends. Yeah, like you said, it depends who's. It depends on who's making the decision. If I look at you and you look like my sister or my brother or my cousin, I relate to you, right? And sometimes if it don't look like that to me, then sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
And I mean that's just the reality of where we are, man.
Right.
You know. So one of the things that I did want to cover. I mean, we both are real estate agents. You know, and there's been a change in the real estate market. So there was a class action lawsuit that was settled earlier this year, and now as of August the 17th, any buyer who's looking to purchase a property has to sign a buyer's agreement with an agent before they can even go look at a property.
Sign a buyer's agreement.
Buyer's agency agreement. Yeah.
Okay.
So prior to it, you know, you would sign like a CIS, was a consumer information statement that said, hey, you understand what I can do as an agent. And you could sign buyer's agency agreement that tied them into a contract with you for a set amount of time to look at properties. But that didn't necessarily always have the commission in it. Prior to So prior to this, typically the commission for the buyer's agent and the listing agent was negotiated at the listing, right? So if it was 5% commission and the listing company was, split, or they would compensate the buyer's agent based out of their commission. Well, this lawsuit basically said, hey, look, at the listing agent negotiates their commission, right? The seller's only responsible to pay that commission. But there's nothing that says that in that buyer's agency agreement that is signed between the buyer and the buyer's agent, if their commission is, let's just say, 1%, there's nothing that says that they can't ask the seller to pay their agent's commission, right? And so what they were trying to do is bring out more transparency as to who was paying what agent.
Okay.
Right. So prior to the argument for the sellers in that class action lawsuit is, I understand I should pay my agent, the listing
right,
agent,
for selling my property.
for selling my property,
Right.
but should I be paying the buyer's agent to sell my property? And is that buyer's agent, are they representing that buyer or are they representing me? Right. So they're just trying to make it clear. The one thing that it has done is it can make it harder for now a buyer to purchase a property, because over the last 4 years, property values have gone up over 40-50%. And so now the down payments are, a down payment at 3.5% on a $400,000 home is like $12,000, and then you got transfer tax that can be another $12,000, or settlement costs that can be another $12,000, and then you have real estate commission that could be another, depending
percentage,
on
right?
Another percentage. And so now what you have is a buyer who now has to make a choice. Either I'm going to have somebody represent me, and I'm going to have to pay a portion of their commission, or I'm going to try to buy this property without any representation at all.
Yeah. And that could be, we know the risk factors that come with that.
Right, right. So there's a lot of things that go along in that real estate transaction from the very beginning. The time frames that you put into the contract, how much time you allow yourself for inspections and stuff to be done. Then most buyers haven't gone through that process before, so they don't know who's a reputable home inspector to call, who's a reputable termite person to call. All attorneys don't specialize in real estate. So what attorney should I use? How do I know if the rate that they're telling me is a good rate? You know what I mean? So they got to try to figure all of those things out. They got to figure out about septics and wells and all of those things throughout the transaction. When a buyer's agent guiding them through that process is well versed in all of those things, and makes that process much smoother and a much easier transaction, to where at the end that buyer feels like, okay, this was a great decision, instead of feeling like, I think this is probably the worst decision I ever made, and not happy about the whole entire process.
So we know, once you finding the right agent, I know it has to be like some chemistry. It has to be like you have to feel comfortable. So now you're telling me I have to sign this agency agreement with the buyer before they can show me a home. I mean, with the buyer's agent, before they can show me this home. I don't know this person yet.
Right.
So how do I enter into a relationship with them?
Right. So it's tough. So as a buyer, and even as an agent, because sometimes you might not want to work with that buyer, right? So until you've gotten rapport, if that buyer doesn't feel comfortable about signing a 6-month or a year buyer agency agreement, you can sign that agreement for that day or that week.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and then it covers the agent for the properties that they showed you during that time frame. And then as a buyer, it gives you time to be able to work with this agent to figure out, hey, is this a good working relationship for me?
Right.
Right. And then if it isn't, then you can move on to another agent. But if it is, and you got somebody who's going to represent you, through the fullest throughout that whole transaction, and it could end up being something similar to, because right now it's kind of like the Wild Wild West, because it just happened. The new guidelines and laws just took effect on August the 17th. So there's a lot of figuring things out right now. But the one thing that could happen. So the one the one thing that could happen is now that initial, let's just say, week period where you sign that contract, it could be where that buyer is doing that with maybe 2 or 3 agents
Okay.
and trying to figure out who they really want to work with.
Right.
But for those agents, they have that peace of mind of knowing, hey, if I showed him or her this house during this time frame when they were with me, I'm guaranteed my commission.
Okay, so it still gives you that procuring call.
Right.
Okay, got it.
Right.
So let me ask you this, because I know it's a lot of gray areas, but also how does that affect dual agency? Because I know in the past you can.
So you can still have dual agency.
Okay.
Right. So it didn't change in the states where it's possible. So like in Delaware, you can have dual agency. In Maryland, the brokerage can have dual agency, but an agent can't represent both the buyer and seller. So the brokerage can represent the buyer and seller, but the broker in Maryland has to have a designated agent for the buyer, a designated agent for the seller, right? So in Maryland, you can't do that.
Okay.
Right. In Delaware, you can have dual agency. And so in with that, in the listing, it allows for you can get additional compensation from the seller if you're working with a buyer, right? If you're working with a buyer in that transaction, because it does involve more paperwork and time and guidance on that part. Or if the buyer chooses to be unrepresented, right? Because if a buyer is unrepresented, there's more than likely that listing agent is still going to have to do more than the fiduciary duties that they're owed to their seller, right? Just to make sure that their seller's protected and the transaction goes as planned. You know, things like following up with the buyer's lender, following up with the buyer's attorney to make sure that, you know, everything is going on track, making sure that the inspections and stuff get done. If they've had any requests, negotiating out the inspection repair requests. So there's a lot of things that agent still is going to have to do, and they'll, you know, and they're going to negotiate to get compensated for that, either through, you know, their listing agreement with the seller or with a new agreement with the buyer.
Okay. Right. So is that we're on the conversation of real estate. You know, right now we know the market is well, I'm not even gonna say the market, but we know the prices are high up for, you know, the cost is up for as purchasing home. And a lot of first-time home buyers are choosing to, you know, wait now and maybe rent. And we know its advantages and disadvantages of renting and buying, but are you seeing that the rental market is becoming a lot more prevalent now than?
So it's a lot more competitive, and there's a lot less inventory, right? So in the past, you know, there was a healthy amount of inventory available for people to rent, and now that inventory is not there. You know, just because people aren't, you know, people who are locked into 2 and 3 and 4% interest rates aren't moving anywhere.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then you got people that are coming up into a home buyer market that, you know, they're looking for a place, but there's not enough inventory for them to buy. So in that meantime, that pushes them into a rental. The other thing that you have on the rental side is that you have people who are unemployed and might, you know, be getting, you know, help from state services, and they, you know, have a tiered payment system based on the number of bedrooms that you have. And in order for them to be able to get people into those rentals, they've increased the amount of money that they'll pay for those people on a monthly basis, which then kind of lowers the floor for rentals within the market. You know, so like, let's just say you were going to a government agency and for a 3-bedroom, they were willing to pay $1,500 a month. Well, what if the going rate at that time was only 13, right? And so now you have, you know, a homeowner saying, well, if I can get 15, I'm gonna get the 15. Right. You know, instead of getting 13, 15, and it's guaranteed I'm gonna get it every month. Right. Because regardless if this, you know, this person, if they fall on hard times, they have this voucher where they're going to pay for it. They're going to pay for a majority of the rent. And so that kind of sets that floor of rentals for that particular area in that market. And so now where you have people that are living in those and paying that rent, if you want to, it kind of creates Let's take a little more time. It does feel hot though. I'm not sure why though.
Is it still getting the audio?
Mm-hmm. So now, for people who are in the market, they're competing with the people that are getting $1,500 a month. So if you want to get it, you're going to pay at least
all the time looking for rentals. But the funny part is, man, some of these rentals are the same rentals I showed people 7-8 years ago. And you're talking about properties that upkeep is minimal. I'm saying when I say that, I mean they're in the same condition that I was showing these rentals for $850 a month, and then you want $1,500 for the same property. I don't know. That don't sit too well with me, man. I'm looking like, man, how can you? I mean, I think there should be a responsibility of the property owner, man, to bring it up to that value. Because if I'm gonna pay $1,500 for something, then it's gonna have to meet that standard. And a lot of these rentals, I mean, if you haven't put that type of money and upkeep into it, how can you justify asking that amount?
Supply and demand. If somebody willing to pay that in that condition, then that's where we are. But that's a society that we live in. A capitalistic society where if you can make money off of it, people are going to do it.
I mean, it's the name of the game. Right. It is the name of the game. But I mean, the situation you explained earlier. So I'm working every day, and I'm not, I'm not at the top, but I'm doing all right. I'm making ends meet.
Right.
Mine has to come out of my pockets. But if I'm getting a voucher or if I'm getting this, then that price is set based off of what the government is willing to pay. So what does that leave the working man though that has to say?
I don't have the answer to that.
Oh man,
I don't have the answer to that, but I can tell you the thought process of it behind it was inventory. When inventory was getting low, right? It was harder. You had less and less people being able to find a house because they couldn't afford it. And so what some of these government programs did was say, okay, we'll pay more to get these people in, but not thinking about what the effect of that would be.
Okay.
Right. The effect of you paying more now lets the whole rental market, like this is the minimum I can get. Now with that set amount, it takes care of the other thing that you were talking about, which is the condition of the property, because it has to go through a certain type of inspection in order to even qualify for it.
Okay.
What that doesn't address is the working, somebody who's going 95, a couple who's looking for a rental and they're not using assistance, and all they had to pick from are these houses that haven't been maintained. There's nothing that regulates that right now. Right.
Man, yeah. And do you feel like there should be a regulation on that? Do you feel like the government should get involved on that side of things too?
So I think everybody deserves should have a decent living space. I don't think that the government should decide what that is, right? So I guess yes, but I don't know what a fair system like that would look like.
I mean, it's just like, any restaurant. Every day you go, you can see restaurants that they condone a certain health standards they gotta, adhere to and things of that nature. But if you you know, in the past you call them slumlords. If you're a slumlord and you do just enough, and you still require this money, I mean, it should be some type of legislation. I mean, that's just in my opinion.
Right. So there is out there. So in most cities or most towns or in Sussex County, Delaware, you have to get a rental license, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in the town limits, right? And with that rental license, the town has a code enforcer, and they an hour and 7 minutes.
Yeah,
it's good time. And so in the towns, they have code enforcers, and the code enforcers go through and they do inspections on the property.
Okay.
Right. And so in order for you, so they've got a list of things that they're looking for, typically to make sure all the doors and windows lock, make sure that they got heat, because you don't have to make sure that somebody has central air.
Mm-hmm.
They check, make sure that, there's the water and stuff is working properly in the house. There's no leaks. And then they're looking at the overall condition and cleanliness of the units.
Okay.
So, like, I guess to answer that question, you could have it be where if it's not in town limits, the county could do something like that. But then, you as a property owner, you would end up paying for that. Even if you didn't have any rentals, because now somebody's got to that salary's got to get paid by somebody, and so it gets paid by the taxpayer to add that other person into the county payroll.
And I know you touched on this before. A lot of people that's in the landlord space or property owner space, they do it as investments. And sometimes those investments you don't have a lot of capital put into them because you're looking at this for retirement.
Right.
And I get it. So because when you look into buying a property, you say, okay, I'm gonna maintain this, and then this is my retirement plan. This is going to help me.
Right.
So I can see why some people don't go over the top with it,
right.
but I still think it should be a standard.
Right.
Standard.
And typically, what I've seen is that the investors who have multiple properties tend to take care of their properties really well. It's the ones that have one or two, and they're really relying on that rental income to pay the mortgage. And there's not a whole lot of meat on the bone after that mortgage is paid. They might only be cash flowing $100 or $200 a month. Well, a water heater goes up, that's $1,000, right? If you got to replace the toilet, that's $400, right? So in those cases like that, it's like now for them, yes, the long-term goal is to have this house paid off in 20 or 30 years. But in the short term, if this person, if they're having to take out of their own pocket now in order to make those repairs on that rental property, when it's time to rent it out, they want to do as least amount as possible because they might not have that extra cash to be able to put.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Back into the property.
Makes a lot of sense.
I mean, that's kind of what you see. That's what I've seen through probably the 15 years that I've been doing property management. But for the most part, you try to. For the most part, I'd say 90%, 95% of the rentals are in pretty good condition.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. That's all it is, man.
So, so to end this one on a light note, I know here recently you check one thing off of the bucket list. You had a trip to Ghana. You and your wife, you went on a mission trip there. So just want to tell you, just want you to, just talk about that a little bit. What was it like being in Africa for the first time?
Man, it was amazing. It was eye-opening. It's one of those things, man, you hear about it. So, you talk to a lot of people and A lot of people go and they say, "Oh man, you feel like you're home. You feel like this," and can't really. When you hear about it, you can't even fathom it until you actually get there and you get on the soil. And when I first got there, I didn't feel that instant connect. But as I start to move around and start to see, you know, the be around the children and going to the different villages, man, if I can explain it, it's almost like I think I was telling somebody, you know, when we was kids, we all had that favorite spot we like to go, whether it was grandma's house, whether it was auntie's, where we would get together and all your cousins and friends and family, and you smell your mom cooking the pies, and it's just a happy time. And that's how I felt. I mean, I was there. Wow. I found myself, man, actually showing that vulnerable side, man. I was in tears a few times because how connected I felt, man. And granted, we don't even speak the same language, different dialects and everything, but you felt connected. You felt connected. Mm-hmm. So I gotta Google this when I get home. Still recording though. We'll wrap it up now, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like I was saying, man, you know, you felt so connected. I mean, it's a lot of takeaways, man. Ghana is a beautiful, beautiful place, man. Africa altogether. The food was amazing. The fruit, man, I'm talking about the organicness of it, man. Just how it tastes different, it looked different. I mean, we don't even know what fruit tastes like over here anymore, man, compared to how it is there. I mean, everything is in its purest form, man. And the bananas are good. Everything was just, the food was just amazing. And then also, I mean, one of my biggest takeaways was there's a lot of opportunity there. It was like, it's only two ends of the spectrum. If you in a country like that, you either got it or you don't. And the ones that don't have it, man, they still like back in the day. You talking 1940s don't have it. I mean, the first time I had to go to the restroom, God took me into his home. He said, "Come on in," and he opened the door. I walked in the restroom, walked in to use the restroom. It was just a floor. And when I say it was just a floor, it was a floor with a hole in the corner. I walked out the room. I came back. I said, "Excuse me." I said, you sure here?" He said, "Yeah, that's toilet." I said, "Oh boy, this is toilet." So man, I had to get some use. I mean, you have some living like that, then you have some with full plumbing and everything. So it's and then, you know, the water situation, man, being privileged enough to go into a village. When I first seen some of the living conditions, I felt sorry for them. But then seeing them take so much pride in community and, you know, just working together, they was happy. They didn't know that they're that impoverished. To them, they're making the best of what they got and going with it. And I started to like just dive in, and man, they were so welcoming. I just, you know, and it really pulled on my heartstrings. So it's a lot I want to do. It's a lot of work to be done. We're blessed. When we came home and turned on our faucets and had clean running water, man, it's like, I want that for everybody. I think that's a resource that God bless us with. We all should have. And so many of them don't even have running water, you know, the wells. So now, you know, putting these wells into the communities so that they can have fresh drinking water, because you got villages that you're talking about 300 to 1,000 people, 1,500 people that don't have clean drinking water, got to walk miles and miles just to get water. Yeah. So you said something that made me think about a conversation that we had a little bit earlier about the young men in the 20s and the 30s and getting married in their 40s. And you mentioned the joy that you saw the people with there. Mm-hmm. And so do you think, like, being there, do you think we as Americans have missed the mark on what our real purpose is? Yes, but not to judge unfairly, because we haven't had to go through those conditions. If I was telling my wife, I believe that if we had the resources in an early age, we should all have to take a trip like that,
Mhm.
or a country similar to see how they live. I mean, you have kids that's under the age of 10 that has to get up and walk 3 miles before they go to school, if they have a school in their village, to get water, come back home. And some of our kids who can't get up out of bed and take the trash out. So it starts
Right.
at a young age,
Right.
and it only grows with you.
Right.
So I think if you do see that earlier on in life, you wouldn't feel so entitled, and you'd be willing to understand that you have to work more for what you have. So yeah, I think we definitely missed the mark, and I think
And I guess maybe Mr. Martin might be the wrong word, but like more spoiled or entitled.
yeah,
Like,
that's
you
it.
know,
Yeah,
in
yeah,
our
yeah,
in our day-to-day life, like
Oh, yeah.
our expectations of what life should be is so far beyond what the rest of the world is experiencing.
Oh yeah, and that greed sets in because you take a village with 1,500 people. First of all, in order to even get into that village, you have to go through. Uh, I don't know what to call them. I guess you call it. You got someone that runs the village. The guy you got to go to, the overseer of the village. So
Right.
you have to go to him. But even in that, you don't hear a bunch of arguing. You don't see no physical altercations. I mean, and they have a little bit of nothing, but they understand the importance. We have to work together. And for order for us to have a successful day, yeah, and just to, for us to make it through a day, we're counting on each other to make sure our basic needs are met, and so it don't leave a lot of time for bickering, arguing. It's almost like how can we work together, pull our resources together, and make sure everybody has. And if we could adopt that mindset over here, there wouldn't be any lag. I think the crime rates will go down. So we could learn a lot from other countries in Africa.
That's what's up. So what would be the next what would be the next bucket list country or trip you'd like to take?
Um, Italy.
Italy?
Yeah, got to get to Italy. And that's in the near future. We made a short stop in Rome, but we didn't get to really explore it. So that's
Right.
definitely on the bucket list. Now I want to cover the world, but that would be the next.
That'd be the
Yeah,
next
what
spot.
would you say?
So, man, it's crazy, man, because I always said, well, Italy was always number one. I was supposed to go there 4 years, 5 years,
Oh,
4 years
I
ago.
get
now.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now I would say it would either be Ghana, Egypt,
Mhm.
or Ethiopia.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I would take
Uh-huh.
either if whichever one pops up for me first. I know a lot of people are going to Ghana. I know there's a lot of opportunity in there, but the angle that you trip. There's a guy who is a very had multiple restaurants, and he created a nonprofit. And that nonprofit, he would travel and he would go to these distant places, but he would always be looking for the needs in the country. His
Mhm.
passion was cooking, so he would try to start cooking schools and things like that.
Nice.
And so, like for me, that was the model of when I travel, I want to experience the culture and then see what I can add value to it, instead of just going there and just saying, "Oh, I went there." I want to be able to go there and see what needs are there and how I can use my resources to be able to help them. And I'm not saying that they need it, But I think to go to a different place, a different culture, and not try to see the whole spectrum, I think you're robbing yourself of an experience, right?
And not only that, I feel like there's a disconnect. If you go to some of these places and you don't feel an instant need, or I'm not even gonna say a need, but if you don't feel compelled to want to help in some type of way, then you got to come back and look at yourself and say, wait a minute, man, what am I missing? Because I'm talking about even before we were in there, just all, I mean, we've been to Jamaica, we've been to Haiti, we've been to all the Caribbean islands and all that. And each time I visit, I realize that we're blessed. And if I can, on my way out, tip or do something, just to say, hey, keep doing what you're doing, but I see what you guys are going through. It always, I don't know, I come back with a grateful attitude, man, because we're blessed, man. I mean, we're blessed on many levels. Yeah.
Well, that's what's up, man. So I guess we're gonna wrap this episode up. This was what we call in the Genesis. This is the first run at this thing. So you'll watch us grow and evolve. And after you watch this, write in the comments some things that you would love to hear us be able to talk on, or maybe even to hear our perspective, or go a little bit deeper in. Because we just two guys that have these conversations all of the time, felt like it was something different, something new. And we just wanted to share that experience with you so that you can learn and grow with us. So you got anything you want to add in there, Troy?
Nah, man, we just thank everybody, man, for checking in with us, man. Look, stay tuned in and stay tapped in.
That's what it is. Thanks for checking us out.
Yep. Peace.
Peace.